Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. We've got the black fit here on the lift, and today we are going to be doing a long tube header installation and overview video. This is the Unequal Fabrication long tube header. We'll also be test fitting a cast eBay turbo manifold and S13 T25 turbo. If I get dumb enough, I might even try to start it just with the turbo manifold on just to see how it sounds. Because why not? That turbo needs a rebuild, it needs a new center cartridge, so might as well do some dumb stuff. I don't tend to do a whole lot of that, so might as well have some fun with it. So let's get into it. Alright, so here's what we're working with currently. We've got a Tanabe axle back that goes to a Megan Racing mid pipe. Then we've got the Megan Racing test pipe, and all the way up in there we've got a DME or DC Sport, I forget who exactly makes that one, but it's a little short tube header guy that basically just replaces the stock manifold. We'll be replacing the manifold and the test pipe with this guy, but first we're going to be installing this guy and probably starting it to see how it sounds, because I feel like doing some dumb stuff today. So I'm going to get that uninstalled, get the turbo manifold thrown on, and we'll see what it looks like after that. Alright, we've got the header and test pipe removed, and this is really where you lose a lot of power on these things. The runners themselves are pretty small, they're tiny little things, but the collector is all 4-to-1, and you've got this tiny opening here. You know, it's like 2 fingers, you know, it's, I think it's 1 3/4 inch, don't quote me on that. But then with Ethan's long tube, each one of the runners is that same size, and then it comes together at a much larger collector back here. So this is a 3-finger. I know that is not the most standard way of measuring, but hey, it's the Imperial system, so just go along with it. So now that we've got that stuff out, I'm gonna attempt to fit this Mama Jamma back in there. I would like to try to do it with the turbo still installed to the manifold, because trying to get it all in one piece would be a lot easier. Now the thing is that trying to fit anything in this opening is probably going to be pretty difficult, and underneath I do still have the rear sway bar installed, which makes things a little bit difficult. It might, you know, be problematic. I'll see what I can wiggle in and report back after my findings. Well, turns out it's not going to be anywhere near as serviceable or easy to do as I thought it was going to be, but nevertheless, we do have a turbo manifold down here. Let me see if I can get a good shot. That's the manifold and the turbo, and we'll go underneath here to show you what the turbo looks like. So there is the turbo. It's got plenty of room between it and the brake lines. I'm still going to try to do some sort of heat management just because the downpipe is going to be near all that stuff, and then poke out of here somehow. It's got a decent amount of room to snake out. And then the intake will have room. Ooh, it's tight in here. Up through there, past shifter cables to do some things. So, after all that effort, let's do dumb stuff and turn the slide off and start it up and see what it sounds like. Probably blow up this turbo. Oh well, it's not the one I'm using. Well, here goes nothing. Sounds pretty bad. Take 2. Turns out I had forgotten to put the wastegate back on the turbo because I had to take it off to be able to snake the turbo through and get it installed. So let's try this again and see if we get any more cool turbo noise instead of just a terrible exhaust dump. It's about the same. Ooh, now we got turbo noises. Now that I like. All right, we got the turbo out of the car. I got the manifold in a box over there, ready to ship out so that Ethan at Unequal Fabrication can piece together the rest of my kit. And I grabbed the trusty calipers. And the opening for this header here is 1 9/16 of an inch. It's like just over 1.5. That's the inside diameter of this, but you have 2 ports of that size, and then here that pops up to, I think it's like 2 1/16 of an inch. So a lot better as far as the flow, and you really do feel it when you're driving with this installed rather than this. Not only because it's got the sweeping merges where it goes from 4 to 2 to then 1, and you know this like bottlenecks all runners into 1, but also just because of the flow restrictions when you are bottlenecking all 4 into 1 tiny collector. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this installed, and get the car driving again. First step is gonna be to do the upper half. I like to do that through here. It is a really tight squeeze to get it in and out, and it takes a little bit of wiggling around to get it done, but it does fit. And then after that, put a gasket on it, bolt it to the head. All right, we got the top of the header installed. Now I'm gonna put the primary O2 sensor right here, and then I took off these 2 ignition coils off just to be able to get the turbo manifold off. You don't necessarily have to do it to install the long tube header. It does make things a lot easier if you don't have any of the coil packs in place, just because there's a little bit more room for the flange to work around. I'm also gonna go underneath and show you what you'll be fighting most of the install. The shield, hold on. Here we go. There's supposed to be a shield here. Get my light in place. There's supposed to be a shield here for the exhaust between the shift cables. So you'll see there's a stud here, there's a stud here, and there is a stud right over there. And that one in back is the one that you're going to be fighting. That guy right there is the one that you're going to be fighting, trying to get this in. You also will have to massage the shield because it comes very close to the car right there. I removed mine entirely and added a heat protectant sleeve on the shift cables. So that's not an issue for my specific purpose, but it does come really close, so you're either going to have to trim or bang the shield up so it doesn't touch and rattle. But now we get to do the second portion, which goes from here to the rest of the exhaust. So I'm gonna go ahead, crawl out from underneath my car first. I'm gonna go ahead and get everything done up at the top with the oxygen sensor, ignition coils, all that. I'm gonna put my strut tower back on just so everything up top can be done and I can close the hood, put the car back up, and get the bottom. And just like that, we have strut tower, electrical, make sure oil cap is tight because I did take that off for the manifold also, and everything's good here. So I'm gonna close this hood and get the car up in the air. There it is. So now, I'll show you underneath. You see the O2 sensor over there? I got it zipped out of the way so that the wiring isn't gonna touch the really hot header when it's at the racetrack. And this part is kind of finicky because you need to put 2 B-vans in here and they come really close together. So what I do is I usually grab the B-van, I put it on the back side, on the front side of the exhaust, and then I put this piece, this center section, the rear part of the manifold in place, and then I put it up in place and get them all locked in. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we've got the 2 clamps in place. I did remove the T-bolts, so these guys are right there. And I did the one on the left first and then the one on the right, just because this one has to snake in between the 2 tubes and this one's more out where it's easier to get. So now I'm gonna place the rear section of the manifold in place, get these locked in, get the T-bolt started, and go from there. The center section, well, it's really the rear section of the exhaust manifold is now in place. These are very loosely held in place just so this doesn't fall while trying to align the 2 flanges up here And those B-vans do have like a slot in them, so they fit inside of each other. So now comes the fun part of getting all these to sit flat and go inside of the B-van, get the T-bolts in, and tighten everything up. All right, I got my front bar back on, which I took off to see if I could get the turbo through here, but that ended up not really being necessary. We've got the rear section of the exhaust manifold on. I have got an O2 sensor installed in the back here, and you'll see this is what I was talking about with the two B-vans over here. I pointed the T-bolts away from each other so that there's room, and also so that they have the least amount of material here in between for them to have as much clearance as possible. Same with the top here near the body, and with the top there near the shift cables. So now I'm gonna bring the car down, start it, make sure there's no leaks, and then we'll be good to go. All right, check engine light might still be on because I didn't have either O2 sensor hooked up when the turbo was on. So let's see how it sounds, yeah? Much deeper sound than the test pipe and 4-to-1. I think it gives it a nice growl. It's a little raspy with this muffler when it's standing still, but it's actually really good under load. I'm gonna go ahead and clear that check engine light and probably take it out for a test drive, just make sure that everything is working properly, and we'll be set. All right, we're test driving the car, and I totally forgot how much I really don't like this clutch. It's the Clutchmaster's FX 250 212 millimeter upgrade. It is so stiff. It is such an on-off switch that it really makes the car not great to drive. When I was driving this thing every day, like, I'd gotten used to it, but switching back between the silver car and this, like, man, it's not great. The car itself feels friggin' great, but just this clutch, man. I might try to see if a standard D-series pressure plate will fit, because I think that's where the problem is the pressure plate is just way too aggressive. And the upgrade is that the standard fit clutch is 190 mil, and the D-series is a 212. So you put a D-series disc, with the splines of an L-series in it, and now you've got a lot more surface area. So yeah, that's like one of my #1 gripes about this car, is that the clutch is just way too aggressive now. I did want something that was more aggressive because of the turbo setup that's going on it, but this is just way too much, and my power goals aren't that insane. So they're expensive. I want to say it's like an $800 clutch kit, and maybe it's like $900 with the proprietary flywheel, because you do need a different flywheel to run the upgraded size of the clutch disc and pressure plate. And it's just, personally, not super into it. We'll see. I'd really like to not have to spend all that money again. Yeah, and my turn signals are super far. I forgot about that also. I would like to not have to spend the money again if I don't have to, and I can just get away with just a pressure plate instead of the entire kit. But I guess we will see. I'm more than likely going to have to pull this transmission again, just because this differential doesn't like to disengage, which is really weird of a helical style differential that doesn't use clutch packs. They are just gear driven. So I think tolerances or something are too tight inside the differential. I didn't open the differential when I installed it. And this was an issue that happened after installation, like a bit after installation. It wasn't happening right after the initial break-in of the differential. This also is a differential that shouldn't really need break-in because it doesn't have clutch packs. So yeah, lots of work left to do on this thing. But you know, such is life when you have a highly modified vehicle of any sort, especially when you are trying to make it the perfect blend of street and track, as I am with this. It's a very fine line to tote, and you know, like, this clutch would be perfect for a track only application, but as a comfortable daily driver for me, this ain't it. So I'm gonna do a little pull here to show you what it sounds like. Open throttle. I love how this thing sounds when it's under load, and the power difference is really there. Sounds awesome, and I'm definitely going the speed limit. All right, well, I'm gonna get back into the garage and close this out. Well, there you have it. That is the overview and a brief installation summary of the Unequal Fabrication long tube header on a first generation Honda Fit. Also, some of my stupid turbo shenanigans, and I'm very excited now that I've heard some turbo noises to actually get everything completed, get this thing turboed, and just make dumb noises. I got a really cool blow-off valve that sounds exactly like the Eclipse from the first Fast and Furious movie, because, you know, I had to keep the whole Johnny Tran Fast and Furious theme going on with the car. So that'll be coming up in the next couple of months. I'm actually doing 2 turbo fits. Jay's car is getting a TD04. I'm getting a GT3 554R. And yeah, it's going to be very similar but very different builds. So that'll be some really cool stuff to get to experience and bring you along with, and show you what the best setup is if you're interested in going turbo with your Fit. If you're not interested in going turbo with your Fit and you want to keep a more simple, naturally aspirated setup, the Unequal Fab long tube header is one of the best mods for power gains and sound, but short of a Flash Pro, it really did the most for the feel and raw power of the car, you know, all 118 ponies it's got. So that'll be it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.